Hi, and welcome to the Hidden Gifts of Loss podcast. I'm Julie Trainer, your host. And today I am delighted to have as my guest Heather Mullen. She has an amazing story to share with us. Is a two-time cancer survivor, and she found a hidden gift in cancer. And she became a health and life coach and a cancer mindset coach. She's also an energy practitioner and a PEMF practitioner, which she can explain to us. And she, as a result of all this, she also created a cancer affirmation deck, which I can't wait to see. That sounds amazing. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. And welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Welcome. So, how did this all begin for you?
It started in 2018. I had already been getting routine colonoscopies yearly due to a genetic disease that I have that caused polyps to grow in the colon. So it was just routine for me from the age of 13 up until 2018. I had my large intestine removed when I was 18. From 18 until 2018, I lived with just the small intestine, and they created a pouch out of the end of my large intestine and that connected to the exit. And so everything was fine. I had no issues, thank God, through that. But it was June of 2018. I had my normal scan, and I recall I was going to pick up a friend of mine whose car was in the shop from work. And I stopped at Wawa and I came out and I had a message from my doctor saying, Heather, the pathology report came back. It's cancer. We need to get on this now. I Everything just exploded in my head at that moment. I wasn't sure what to think or feel or do. So I quickly called him back. We had a conversation. It was very surreal. Got off the phone with him and I went to the business complex where my friend worked. I was early. And in a business complex, there's no trees or anything. It's just parking lots. But I happened to find this line of pine trees and I just parked facing it. And I just remember sitting there just looking at this line of pine trees and a lot of emotions came through. And as I'm going through this myriad of emotions, I'm getting emotional. All this is happening. I'm wondering, I'm thinking of all these unknowns, everything else. And I look up and this cardinal flies past. And cardinal for me is a symbol of grandfather who has passed. And it was just odd for a cardinal to be in a business park by pine trees and flying directly past my window. In that moment, I sat there and I just felt this calming feeling within me. And I heard the message that, Heather, you might not know why this is happening, but just know that it's happening for you and trust that. So I sat there, still going through the emotions, it did lift that experience in and of itself just helped lift that fear and uncertainty. Not completely, but just enough that I felt that I could trust that message. And so I went about the day and I actually took 3 days before I told my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and my parents. I took 3 days and people ask me often when I share the story why. And I did that because I just felt I needed to. I felt I needed to sit some more with all that was now going to be in front of me, most of which I had no idea what that would be, but just I needed to sit with the emotions, sit with the news, and digest it in my way. And so I did that. And when I thought my boyfriend and my parents, I brought them together. And I remember just after the fact, my boyfriend said, I was terrified. Why were you bringing me to sit with your parents? What could you possibly be wanting to tell me in front of your parents? Because we'd only been together for 10 months. So I shared what was going on, but how I introduced it to them is, and I will never forget their faces because I would probably have the same face if it was reversed. I started out with, okay, I just want to let you know I have cancer. They said, but you don't have to worry about it because this is a good thing. I said, this is going to open up something huge for me. I don't know what. I know it's all going to be okay. I just wanted you to know. And of course, they're all looking at me with jaws dropped, and half from the news itself, but half from the way I delivered it, not really understanding how I could be coming from that perspective. I didn't even completely understand how I was coming from that perspective, but I was trusting it. And so that began my journey. And so I did my due diligence, found the right doctor. I was always more on the natural side of things as far as health and maintenance and eating right and that. Not perfect, but that was my more the way that I gravitated towards. Anyway, but I couldn't at the time go to Mexico because I considered that for treatment. I just financially couldn't do that. So I had to find that balance. So I found a good doctor, went through chemo, radiation, had my first surgery the beginning of 2019. Um, in that surgery, I was given a permanent ileostomy. And then I started chemo in March, but after the surgery, I had an abscess in the area that they had to operate on. And so from January until October of that year, as I went through chemo, as I'm healing from surgery, that area wasn't healing. So I couldn't sit. I had to lay on my side all but for those entire however many months that was. And it was very painful, very uncomfortable. But in that time, during the time of chemo and laying on my side, why not? I was really soul searching and still feeling that calling that this was happening for me. And I remember being told in the past about you really ask very interesting questions. You really ask questions that make people think. I think you'd be a great coach. And that came back to me in March. And so I went and searched and found a health and life coach institute that I could become certified. And so during that time of being on my side and healing, I became certified as a health and life coach. And then in October, I had a second surgery because of that abscess that wasn't healing. And the reason it wasn't was because radiation, the tissue was dead. So there was nothing to promote healing. So they took a muscle from my inner thigh and put it into that area to promote healing. And it was supposed to be no big deal, no problem. And I woke up after the waiting period. They went to have me get up and my leg was paralyzed. And no one understood why. To this day, no one knows why. So instead of walking out of the hospital, I was wheeled out of the hospital. And I spent the next 8 months in a wheelchair going through physical therapy to just get to a point where I could walk again. And of course, that was 2020, pretty much. It was the end of 2019. It was the start of COVID and everything that was going on. And in that same time period, because I was so sedentary due to my leg and because the cancer and the surgeries were GI related, I started having intestinal blockages that I had to be hospitalized for. So I had over 30 between January and June of 2020, and I was hospitalized for 20 of them. As I'm trying to navigate my leg not working, I was dealing with that. And during that time, I also was referred because I was really seeking out any kind of alternative natural healing methods. And I was referred to someone who did integrated energy therapy as well as PEMF therapy. And so I went through some sessions with her, and the energy therapy was absolutely amazing because it works with the different organs in your body and the energy that is energy and emotions that are held in those organs. And so by having those sessions when they're working on you, they're actually healing. They're releasing any kind of negative emotions and bringing them to the surface so that you can see them, you can feel them, and you can release them. And so that was a huge help because I found that I had emotions tucked in certain areas that were contributing to these things that were happening and why I wasn't healing and why more things were happening. And then the PMF therapy, which I know that you were curious about and I was sharing earlier. Basically, the PMF therapy is pulse electromagnetic therapy that is basically mimics what is already in the earth. The PMFs are created in the earth naturally. And the PMF therapy was started by NASA for the astronauts when they returned from space because it helps to create balance and heal those cells, clean those cells up to get them back to earth and the balance they need to be physically, mentally, emotionally. And we don't really the way that we can receive them naturally is by grounding, by walking outside in our bare feet, laying in the grass. And as kids, we did that. But no one really does that anymore, not even kids really. We're driving cars with rubber wheels, shoes with rubber soles, bicycles with rubber, everything. We're never just connecting with the earth. So
Yeah.
this kind of does that for you. And it's a mat that you lay on, and then it has pieces that you'll put on target certain parts of your body if you have an area that you want to concentrate on, if you have shoulder that's having issues, a knee, whatever the case may be. And so I did this, and it's something that's cumulative. So it's not one and done. It's something that builds up in your system. And as the therapist explained to me, and I thought it was super cool, she said you can imagine that when you start from the time you're a child until now, you're creating this web, and the web consists of every experience, every interaction, every choice, everything physical, mental, emotional that has happened in your life that has made you who you are, right? So when you lay on this mat, it's actually unweaving that web. So it has to start from the outside in. And so I was at about, and I remember her saying, well, between like session 6 and 10 is when you'll start to really, the things are happening before then, but when you actually start to physically experience them, it's around 6 to 10. And it was in the sixth session that I was laying there and I felt this pain in my leg that I hadn't felt in months. And so I said, "Was this normal? Because I haven't felt this pain. Is it causing something bad?" And
Mhm.
she said, "No." She said, "It's now at the point where it's unweaving what is stuck in that area of your leg. So you're experiencing that because it's at that point. So it's basically recreating that within you to unweave it." And so I continue with the sessions, and by the 12th session, I was able to, because I was having issues, even I was able to walk, but my foot dropped and I was falling all the time and I had to use a walker at that point. And I was able to walk and my foot wasn't dropping and I wasn't falling as much. And so I attribute that to that. Absolutely. So those two things are still things that I do. actually have a mat. Obviously, I offer that as a service to people, but those were two things that I then, not at that point, because I had a lot of other stuff going on,
Yeah.
but those were two things the following year that I became certified in the energy therapy and the PEMF therapy. And so, in going back to where I was in 2020, I ended up having to have another major surgery in the end of June because of all the blockages I was having. So they did a surgery, and I came home after a week, and I was literally back in the hospital the next evening. I was rushed and ambulanced out back to the hospital because I ended up with a kidney injury, and I have no idea. It was a lot. I ended up in the hospital 3 hours away from family and friends during COVID, and I was hospitalized for a month. So I was all by myself in a hospital room, and I had a lot of time to myself. I had a lot of time to choose to be angry and frustrated and sad, or to continue to focus on this is happening for me. And there's so many times where I have to be honest, I questioned, how is this happening for me? How are all these things coming at me and they're happening for me? And I remember sitting up in my hospital room one day because I was nauseous. I couldn't eat anything. They had me NPO, and which means no food by mouth. And I was all by myself. And anyone that came in to see you, which was just doctors and nurses, had to suit up as if I had the plague.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was doing a lot of reading inspirational things, and not self help, but self empowerment and things like that. And I read this thing that said, you can't smile and be sad. I sat up in bed and I chuckled to myself initially. So, like, if someone comes in, they're going to look at me like, do we need to call psych? What is happening here? Because I sat up, I looked out the window, looked at the wall, then I looked out the window and I just smiled, this huge smile. And it was in a moment when all I wanted to do was cry. And I just, it actually just created all these happy feelings inside of me. I was just like, all right, I can do this. This is going to be okay. This is going to be good. And funny enough, later that afternoon, the nurse came in, the one nurse, head nurse, and she came in with flowers and a card. And I was like, oh, who's this from? Who sent me this? She's like, we did. We feel that you're here. You've been here for so long. You're always so positive and try and find a happy spin on things. And we just wanted, and that has inspired us, even if you don't realize it. So we wanted to do this for you. That was very touching. That
Oh,
was very
wow.
touching. And so then I was home after that month, and it was, let me see, my dates, it's like a blur.
Mhm, mhm.
So I was dead for a while, and then I had in November of that same year, I went for my normal cancer screening. So I came home in September from the hospital. November, I had my cancer screening, and it came back that the cancer had spread to both my lungs. So I went through another surgery the following February, double lung surgery. And so I was in the hospital for another week or so for that. And then chemo again from that 21 March to August. And I've been cancer free since August of 2021. So
God.
there's been many challenges since then, again, with blockages and a lot of GI issues. I have a port that is always here. I have a home nurse that comes every Monday, asks for hydration. Like I said, I have the ileostomy and I have neuropathy in my leg. It was determined through a lot of different tests and such that from the chemo and radiation, I have this radiation induced neuropathy, which is progressive and there's no treatment for it. I continue to believe that I will heal from it. And I continue to do my PMF, I do my energy therapy, I do all of these things, right? Through this whole journey, I knew, like I said, that this was happening for me. And as all these things are happening, I could have chosen to be mad and sad and angry and give up, but I didn't. And I instead found that all of these things, as I was experiencing all these different struggles and challenges, and then as I was finding these ways that were helping me through energy therapy and the PMFs and all of that, I started to also incorporate like meditation and affirmations and all of that. And I realized that my perspective, one of the biggest things that was a gift for me is it completely shifted my perspective on life. It shifted my perspective on why I'm here. I always knew that I was here to serve a greater purpose, but I have never known why. And this diagnosis showed me that. It showed me that I needed to go through this and I need to go through all that I'm continuing to go through because there's so many more people out there that are going through all of these things, that are faced with these challenges and these struggles. And maybe they don't have somebody, or maybe they don't know how to shift their mindset. They don't know what to do. They are stuck in these feelings of frustration and anger and sadness and the unknown and trying to adjust to life being different than it was, to you as a person being different than you were, and to having to adjust to a new normal. And there's a lot of loneliness and isolation in that as well. Even if you have support, because I have support, I've always had it. But there's a difference between support that's coming from people who haven't and aren't where you're at and experiencing exactly what you are experiencing, and those that are. As I went through this and continue to go through this, and as I've been exposed to all these different modalities and used them myself and now become certified, that big gift is that I'm here to be that person I didn't have. I'm here to be that support, that community, that teacher, that hug that you might need, whatever it is that you might need, because the biggest thing that helped me was mindset. And so many times when we're going through something like this, we don't, you're initially thinking, oh my God, what do I do? Okay, what everyone else or what the media is telling me to do is I have to go have chemo and I have to do radiation. And you just get thrown into this journey that you have no idea how to navigate, that you're being forced to go here and there, and all these things are happening. You're going through all these mental and emotional struggles, this physical pain, and all of this is happening. And a lot of times we don't think about where our mind is. We don't think that our mind's connected to our emotion, to the physical. And that's what I want to share, because that's a big thing that I learned, that in this happening for me, it's so that I can be that beacon for others. And when I named my company, which is Healing Whisper, it Whisper is spelled WHISPUR. And so there's two reasons for one why it's called Whisper and one why it's spelled that way. And I use the whisper because the way that I see it is your intuition, or whatever you want to call it, it is a whisper, and it is guiding you, and it is sharing with you where to go and how to feel and what is the best decisions and things for you, right? When you don't hear that or when you ignore that, And oftentimes we ignore it not intentionally, but we're just not connected to it, or we doubt it, so we don't listen to it.
Mhm.
And so as we ignore it for whatever reason, it becomes louder and it becomes louder and it becomes louder until it gets to a shout. And when it's a shout, it's now in your body. It's no longer just in your mind. It is now manifested in your body in some way, shape, or form. So in my case, cancer, right? Because I wasn't listening either.
Mhm.
And so that's the piece of why it's the whisper, because if you can hear the whisper, then you can heal before it gets to your body, right? And the PUR is because I'm an animal lover and I have cats and dogs and horses, but that it's scientifically proven that their purr actually recalibrates your neurological system, right? And it creates calm and it connects with your heartbeat and it just creates this healing effect within your body. So that's why I spell it PUR, because to me, that is the healing whisper, is hearing the whisper before the shout and receiving that healing within.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Heather. Wow. I'm just so honored to be listening to you tell this amazing story.
Thank you.
From the very beginning, you listened to the whisper when you saw the cardinal. And it sounds like that just made all the difference. Like you might not even be here, but you were paying attention to that little hidden gift and it pulled you through the whole thing. Your mindset, it just really speaks to how powerful that is. And it's not easy when you're going through these trials like this. You have been through it. Oh my goodness. Ugh. I just have to say about the purr, I've had 9 cats, and the one that I have now, I only have 1, but his name is Jasper, but it's spelled Jaspurr.
Awesome. I
It's like
love it.
Jasper.
I love
And it's
it.
I know, and it's I love that you said that because obviously I'm a cat lady, and the purr, it's so true. The cat that passed recently, the new cat doesn't sleep with me, but the cat that I had before, he would always sleep on my left hip. And his purr would just put me to sleep,
Mhm.
and I miss that purr. There's so much gold in your story. I'm just amazed, and you're what a gift you are that you knew you were here for a reason to be that beacon, and I can only imagine your coaching clients are so blessed to have found you and with everything that you're going through. It's like a calling that you have, it sounds like. How can people find you?
Currently, I do have a website that shares my services, information about myself. Also, my card deck is on the website, and there's more products coming. And that's www.healingwhisper.com with a
Okay.
P R.
The PR, I love it.
And I also have a Facebook page, which is called Healing Whisper as well. And a group is coming. A Facebook group is in the works.
Yay. I'm gonna join your group, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome.
Uh, I'm just really blown away. I just feel like I just need to, like, sit in silence and just let your story just wash over me. I am so inspired. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here and sharing this with me. And what a gift for the listeners, and I'll put those in the show notes too so people can find you. And tell me about your healing cancer deck.
Yeah, it's 32 cards, and all the affirmations are affirmations that I wrote over the course of the for my journey. And there are ones that I use that I journaled on and reflected on and meditated with. And so I just got this inspiration to create a deck because I already use other decks to combine with my journaling, my own personal journaling. So I thought, why not? Why not share these? They could help others, they help me. And so I used my affirmations and I actually broke the cards. Initially, there was going to be 30, but two extra ones snuck in. But it is essentially broken in three parts. There's a portion of them that are flowers, and the different flowers, the flower that goes with each card, and that particular flower is a symbol of that particular affirmation. So that whatever the emotion is. So if it's gratitude, for that flower is the hydrangea. So there's different flower. And then the next section is just more so other emotions with just a very neat kind of heart centered designs. And then there's the last section of them is are animal focused. So there are different animals that are symbols of, again, that particular affirmation emotion that's being discussed. And so they're three, I made them different. So they're not like a normal size, they're square. They're like 3.5 by 3.5, just the perfect size in your hand. And what accompanies it, I created it's a 44-page guidebook that's digital at the moment. So you just scan the code and it comes up on your phone, but it has a page for each card. And on those pages, it talks about the affirmation and how, giving you some insight, not only in, let's, for example, say the flower that it connects with, and just the healing piece of that. And then another part, excuse me, another paragraph just walks you through how to incorporate that affirmation into your life. And so there's a page for each of those, each of the cards. And then there's a dedication and some other tools that are included in that.
Got to order one from you. Absolutely. I collect decks too. Beautiful. Wow, what a great message. I can't wait to share this podcast with the world. I feel like the more people that your message reaches that and touches, there's just got to be so many people out there that need to hear this message. What a gift. What a blessing.
Thank you so much. I just, it's my mission. It's the closest thing to my heart because I I don't want anyone, whatever I can do to help people not feel when they're going through this, when they're going through a diagnosis, and when they're going through remission, because so many times people think once I am in remission, everything's fine. I'm good. But it's not the case. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of adapting to do. There's a lot of things you have to let go of. There's a lot of just things, residual things that you might have to deal with. And just if I can be that person for of support. And like I said, that's the support and guidance, and just to let them know that they're not alone and that there is a way. There is a way, and the healing is possible. Maybe not even in the way they're thinking, but even better.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah. It happened for you.
Yes.
Love that. I love that. And for all the people that you are helping and touching in the world. That's beautiful. And wow. I felt really alone when I was taking care of my mom too. And I felt like I need a guide. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And so that was my thing too. I wanted to to start this and to write about it. Because so many people are going through, especially during COVID, so many people were going
Oh,
through so many losses. And you had to go through all that during COVID. I can't even imagine being alone in the hospital for a month. Oh, it was awful. There's so many people that couldn't see their loved ones during that time. And just my dad was on a COVID ward for 3 weeks at one point, and my mom, if I hadn't gone out to California when I did, I probably wouldn't have been able to go. Flights were canceled and everything. So it's looking for and recognizing the hidden gifts. And that's exactly what you did. And that made all the difference. So, Heather, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I just want everyone to know, and it's actually something I'm working on, an ebook, just a mini ebook, that a healed mind heals the body.
Yes. Oh, so good. Can't wait to read that one as well. Healed mind heals the body. So that's where you have to start. You have to start with your mind. Yeah, and it's so powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being here today, Heather. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for everything that you do in the
Thank you.
world. It is very needed.
Thank you
All
so much.
right. You're welcome.